is they don't care what he said.
You recording this?
Yeah, I am about to. Yeah, I just clicked the button. Thank you, Aki. So I say that because I know that's the truth. This is what these people are doing. And so you and I have to be really careful about, who we're listening to. Over these last couple of weeks, I've been showing you things that the creator has said. He said that these people, they hate me. And, we are like, no, we don't hate him. He said these people are going to do what they want to do. They're a stiff-necked people. They're a bunch of rebels. Nah, that's not true. We're not rebels. We got people here claiming to be Levitical priests. They're claiming out here to be Levites. Okay. And they have absolutely no documentation whatsoever. They don't have a register. They don't have a list. They don't have a genealogy. They have nothing. They went to ancestry.com or 23andMe, and they figure they're from the Bantu people and they're in that region. Then that's who, they claim making claims.
And there's people out here that call themselves prophetess, and every other word out of their mouth is an expletive intermixed with scripture.
Yeah. And see, Anzania, that's the danger.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. So, and then you got another group. Now check this out. So you got that group, right, who are just nuts, and they don't have no regard for what the creator said. They don't even look at him as being holy. Like, we got to be careful, even when we have conversations and his name is included, or even in conversation, like you said, the expletives and all this kind of stuff. Like we talked about, whatever we're speaking is uncleanness. Even Isaiah said, when he had that vision, he said, I'm a man of unclean lips. I shouldn't be here. And of course, Yah had to purify him for him to even be there. And even in the vision, he had needed to be purified. He understood even in the vision that I needed to be purified. So we need to take this really serious. Okay.
I came across, I was like searching the internet, just, looking for, anybody that knows Yah. And I came across this. It was a white guy called Beta Phila.
Uh-huh.
And he sounds like he sounds like he's talking a good, for lack of a better term, good game. But I'm sitting there for a long time waiting for him to use the name, and every once in a while he might slip into it. But that was a very interesting. After listening to what you had said, and then like finding this guy, and I'm like looking at him kind of sideways.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what's going on.
He's the people.
Yeah. Let's open up with, and this is what I want to do. And I want to let everybody know this. Today I was thinking, okay, we've been going over this Torah portion. What should we talk about today? Right. Of course, we talk about the Torah portion. And I know that, we all have our thoughts, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to interject how we think. We only want to say what he says. Okay. And I know that seems very, very simple-minded, but it's the truth. This is the way it should be. Okay. I'm going to open up with a praise. I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to open up with a praise for Yahweh. Okay. I'm going to read the Psalms 23. And I'm not going to read it I'm going to read it in English, just so we can begin our Torah off with that which is Kadosh. Okay. It says this, Psalms 23, and I'll put it up for us. Here's someone trying to get in. There you go. Share my screen right quick. It's a Psalm of David. Let me encourage all of us, when you feel like you're running out of something to talk about or something to say, then you should begin your day off with praise. We should always remember to praise Yah. That's what popped in my head this morning, is that often we forget that he's worthy of our praise. Today is it's the Shabbat, but also it's a day that I'm grieving, to be honest with you. I'm grieving because I know the situation of our people. I understand what's really going on with the nation of Israel, but I also understand that I feel like my hands are tied, that there's only so much that I can do. I'm pouring my heart out to you because I'm pretty sure a lot of you feel the same way. When we look at what Yah had required of us, we're not able to give it to him. For example, tomorrow, I don't know if you guys know this, but tomorrow is what they call Shavuot. Tomorrow is the festival of Shavuot. And it's the Feast of Weeks. And it's primarily concerned with the first fruits of the land. And we don't have a land that we're in right now, that's ours. We don't have anything to bring to him. We don't have an offering that he requires. We don't have any of these things. And so it breaks my heart because all I have to give is the fruits of my lips, which is praise, And some say, well, that should be enough. People are satisfied with that. And it's good. It feels good to do that. It feels good to cry out to Yah. It feels good to, let him know that we're thinking about him. But the fact of the matter is that I personally want to go beyond what I'm able to do. That's why I feel frustrated. I don't know about you guys, but I feel frustrated, that I don't have an offering to bring to him. I have not a basket. I have there's certain words that's supposed to come off our lips when we bring something to Yah. It's like we're totally disconnected in a sense from our natural setting. Therefore, it's becoming very difficult for us, especially in the land of our enemies. We're oppressed. We are oppressed, an oppressed people. We're a people who have not been gathered together. We're people have been scattered. Yes, we have our meeting right now, and this is beautiful to me. But I would rather be in the company of you and like right with each other. I like to be able to join hands and be on our way to Yerushalayim to go see the King, to go see Yahweh. I would rather for us to have our children and our grandchildren all together as we go ahead and walk towards Yerushalayim and travel. I'd rather have something that I can take from everything that my hands have worked for and put it in front of Yah and bring it to the Kohanim and say, this is from my family. This is something that's been set aside. I would rather that. I'd rather sit at the table with you and eat and drink wine and celebrate and praise Yahweh for all that he's done. Those are the things that I would want to do, So for me, today is more of a time of me reflecting, and I'm grieving over the fact that I can't be with you all and be with the rest of our people. And I don't care what tribe we're from. I don't care if we're from, the Levitical tribe or Judah or Asher or Naphtali, wherever tribe we're from. We all have the same mandate, and that is to worship and to praise Yah. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But this is what it says. It says, Yahweh is my shepherd, okay? And I lack nothing. I lack nothing, okay? This is David speaking about Yahweh and his relationship with him. And he says he has me lie down in grassy pastures, and he leads me beside quiet water. Put my new, what they call it, what I've grew up with, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down. So you might hear me mess up on some words, so forgive me. He leads me by quiet water, and he restores my inner person. Okay. He guides me in the right paths for the sake of his own name. And even if I pass through dark ravines, I will fear no disaster, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they reassure me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, and you anoint my head with oil, and from an overflowing cup. Goodness and grace will pursue me all every day of my life, and I will live in the house of Yahweh for years and years to come. Very basic English thing, okay? But the beautiful part is that when you know the Hebrew about this, it gives you a much deeper understanding, okay? So let me invite you or introduce you to that. It says this, Yahweh Roe. Yahweh Roe. A shepherd is someone who is a companion. It's someone who's always looking out for you. It's the one who is taking care of you. And he says, the Loexar. Loexar means to diminish. Not that I shall not want. That means that I will never be diminished in my life as long as Yahweh is my shepherd. Yah has put other shepherds over us who have done things to us that shouldn't have been done. The reason why we're in a situation we're in today is because the shepherds that Yah had hired decided that they didn't want to do Yah's shepherding. They wanted to feed themselves. They were only concerned about themselves. Yah has made a way for us to be led and to be comforted. To do what? To bring us to a place of rest. This is what David is talking about. This is something that you and I should have a desire. I think this is one of the reasons why this is one of the most attractive Psalms that everyone goes to. It was one of my family favorites. You know, my grandmother, Big Mama, and them used to say this all the time. But of course, they didn't understand the real context of this. It says, the Nafshi, the Yosheveva, Yakeni de Vamagale, the Zedek de Lama an Shemo. That's in verse number 3, saying that my soul, my inner person is being restored, is being turned back to Yahweh. And he's bringing me to a rest, and I can rest in his paths. The paths of Yahweh and the ways of Yahweh are to direct us so you and I can find rest for our souls. I think I mentioned to you on Yom Kamishi just a few days ago that Yah's whole purpose of introducing us to the Torah is to restore the inner person and to turn us back to him, right? And to do this because the desire is for the soul to be restored. The soul cannot be restored without the Torah, okay? The Zedek, the Lama an Shemon, that means that the Zedek is the righteousness, and the righteousness in which you and I are to experience on this path is only for the sake of his name. It's only for the sake of his name. The paths that you and I are walking on is only for the sake of his name, of how great he is. Yahweh he doesn't get the credit and the glory that he deserves to get. Israel was designed to be a people to bring about the praise, the admiration, the exaltation of the King of the universe. Okay. Then he says, yes, even though I will walk through the bagay of the Zalmaveth, of the place of death, even though I walk through these places where I can possibly be killed, that I won't fear. Which is to say that, guess what? Even though I'm walking in these places that can possibly bring death to me, I don't have any fear. I don't have any fear because I know that you're with me, right? You're my rod, thy staff, and they comfort me. Well, these things can only happen if you and I are being directed on the pathway of Yahweh, the paths of righteousness. The moment that you and I move off that path, you should be afraid. The moment that you and I are not listening to Yah, then he's not being your shepherd. You have listened to someone else. There's another shepherd over in the New Testament that a lot of people are following that have led them to, there's going to be leading to their death. Okay. And Yah says that, well, David has said that Yah has prepared. The shulchan aged. Yes, Sister Azania.
Just wanted to say, sometimes Moshe did not listen to the Most High when the Most High told him to stand out of the way so he could annihilate all our ancestors.
Yeah, that's different. That's the interceding. That's that interceding that he had for us, which is, I'm glad you mentioned. I don't know if you're on my my teaching agenda, but we're going to go there just after I talk about this.
Okay.
Talk about what he did for the children of Israel. That's a great point. So when we leave the instructional path, okay, of Yahweh, more than likely, okay, Yah will do one or two things. He will either come and get us, but if we want to keep straying, right, and keep going and going, then he says, guess what? You're gone. That's it. That's all of what it is. So David said that you're preparing this table, this shlukan, before me, this bread of presence before the enemies, and you anoint my head with oil, and my cup runneth over, and surely the Tov Dadabaka said, they will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of Yahweh all my days. They got here perpetually forever, which that is a mistranslation. He's saying, as long as his days are directed, the law of Rok right there is not perpetual. It's arranged. My days will be, the length of my days will be in your yamim. They got that word forever right there, but it's not forever. So there's not talking about forever. He's talking about the amount of time that he has on the earth, which is yom. How many days that I'm here? Well, I'll do that. Okay. So we thank Yah today for this Shabbat. We thank him for this gathering that we have with each other. Let's go and talk about what Azania just brought up, which is in part of the teaching. Our Torah portion primarily dealt with what tribe?
Levi. Levi.
You dealt with the Leviim, right? Okay. Let me see. Levi, Exodus 18. There you go. What we're going to find in Exodus chapter number 32 is about this tribe, Laywe. Do you guys know how the children of Laywe came into power or came into their position?
When you over the golden calf, when they turned around and they killed everyone that had been involved, and they exalted themselves in the eyes of the Most High.
Yeah. Yes. Excellent. Excellent. So here we see, it says in chapter number 32, verse 25, when Moshe saw that the people had gotten out of control because Aharon had allowed them to get out of control to the derision of their enemies, Moshe stood at the entrance of the camp and he shouted, "Whoever is for Yahweh, come to me." And all the descendants of Lewi rallied around him. Now, in your Torah portion, do you guys remember how many sons Lewi had? How many sons does he have?
4.
Close. Real close there. He has 3. Do you guys remember the names of the sons?
Was it Goshen, Kohath, Merari?
Yeah. So there's Gershon, there's
Yeah.
Kohath, and there's Merari. Excellent. And out of those sons, they had sons. Okay. And so, like Azania had mentioned, they came into power with Yah because at this in particular time, the children of Israel had made the golden calf. Prior to the children of Israel making the golden calf, who do Yah say belongs to him? Who is supposed to be Yahweh's servants and work for him?
Laywe.
Huh?
Was it the firstborn?
Thank you. Who said that?
Bam.
Pam, thank you, Akoti. So it's the firstborn's responsibility. When the firstborn did this, when Moshe had asked, well, who here is with Yahweh? The only people that responded was the tribe of Lewi. Okay. And what does Lewi's name mean before we continue?
To join.
Yes, his name means to join. His mother named him that because she wanted her husband to be joined to her, because she thought for sure that, hey, my husband will finally, he will love me now, so she named her son Levi. So this in particular time, and what happened there? On this occasion, the tribe of Levi are the ones who went and they gathered themselves to Moshe. Now listen carefully what he tells them. Remember that the question was, whoever is, or the statement he says, whoever is for Yahweh, come to me. And all the descendants of Lewi rallied around him. Verse number 27. He told them, here is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says. Each of you put on a sword, go up and down the camp from gate to gate, and every man is to kill his own kinsman, meaning relative, his own friend, and his own neighbor. Okay? So the sons of Lewi did what Moshe said, and that day 3,000 people died. When you hear this word or this amount, 3,000, that's mentioned, and I bring you and I mention the New Testament, what's the first thing that came to your mind when I say 3,000 people?
3,000 people were fed one day.
That, and remember when Peter and the rest of those guys, when they did their ministry, remember what was the festival that they went to, and so-called 3,000 people got saved. Do you guys remember that? Do you remember the feast that they went to? Was it called Pentecost? You guys remember that?
Oh, hallelujah. No, I don't remember it anymore.
You guys don't remember that anymore. Okay. Well, Penta, right? And I don't know if I'm spelling it right. Pentecost, that means 50. Okay. Right? That on the 50th day, they're called their feast Pentecost. Okay. Guess what our feast is called on the 50th? What's the name of our feast? Shavuot. Why is it Shavuot? Because it's 7 times 7 equals 49. And then on the 50th day. Okay. So the Christians are celebrating a feast called Pentecost. They get the word penta from 50. Okay. And it's supposed to be equivalent to Shavuot. The 3,000 here that they're talking about on Pentecost was, they said 3,000 souls were saved on Pentecost. Here, 3,000 people died. Okay. All right. 3,000 people died on this particular time. Right. And the people who were joined and who did this killing was the Laywe. Do you guys remember what their father, what Jacob told his sons before he died about Laywe? You guys remember? I'll give you a reminder. Don't worry about it. In the book of Genesis, chapter number 49, because we're going to be talking about Laywe today. Okay. That's who we're going to be talking about. We're going to discuss him. We're going to discuss everything that has to do with him so we can get a better understanding. Because to be honest with you, prior to doing this study, and I've studied this for years, prior to me doing this study, I didn't understand the significance of Laywe. I just thought the Kohanim were the ones that were in charge of everything, because they did the offerings and so forth. But there's another side of Laywe that you and I need to understand. Okay. They're a huge part of Yah's order. Okay. So in Genesis chapter number 49, okay, Yaakov called for his sons and he said, gather yourselves together and I will tell you what will happen to you in the Akorith Hamayim, meaning the last days. I'm going to tell you. He said, assemble yourselves and listen, sons of Yaakov, and pay attention to Israel, your father. And he tells Reuven about himself. We're not going to read that. Okay. Then he talks about Shimon and Laywe. And guess what he says? They're brothers. They're related by weapons of violence. Let me not enter their counsel. Let my honor not be connected with their people, for they, in their anger, they killed men. And at their whim, they maimed cattle. Cursed be their anger, for it has been fierce. Their fury, for it has been cruel. I will divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel. Okay. So this is what he said about who? About Shimon and Laywe. The reason why he said this about these two particular brothers is, someone tell me why. What is he making reference to, if you can remember?
Whenever they were able to or willing to slay their own family members.
Yes. Prior to this, do you remember what they did? Who did they kill? Who did these two guys kill? Just to refresh your memory, Shimon and Laywe put together a conspiracy together to kill everybody in this land called Shechem. They had all of the men get circumcised and they went in and killed every last one of them. And their father, and they did this without their father's knowledge. This is the reason why he says, let me not be in their counsel. So Laywe and Simeon had the character. This is their character. Just for fun, at their whim, they would maim cattle. They would go ahead and disable an animal for fun. They had a lot of anger in them. And they killed men because of their anger, their hot temper. And this is why he says, cursed be their anger, for it's fierce, and their fury, for it is cruel. I will divide them in Yaakov and scatter them in Israel. Well, this is exactly what happened to them. They were scattered in Israel, but guess what? It wasn't scattered because they did anything wrong. They were scattered in Israel because the Most High would use Laywe. He would use Laywe and put him in all the cities throughout Israel. And his job and responsibility was there to be the Leviim. That's his job, to go and collect the tithes, collect the offerings and everything. Okay. Yah chose these in particular people and blessed them because what they did is in their character, in the worst part of who they are, they're fierce and they're killers. Okay. And they're cruel. Yah says, I'm going to use this in particular family right here to guard the what? What does he want them to guard?
Tabernacle.
Yes, it's called the Mishkan. I need them to guard the Mishkan. What else did they do? They guard the Mishkan. What else did they do? What's their responsibilities? If you read your Torah portion here, to guard the Mishkan, what else are they supposed to do to the Mishkan?
Set it up.
They're supposed to set it up, and what else?
Transport it.
There you go, transport, meaning go ahead and tear it down. You understand? Question. You got 3 different families, okay? So they have 3 families, which you guys have already told me was Gershon, Kahath, and Merari, and out of their sons. What would happen to the individual that put their hands, well, let's just say what this is. Before I go there, did the Creator, from what we've read so far, why is this? I'm sorry, you guys, this thing is not operating properly. Question. When the children of Israel made that golden calf, Yah then gives to Laywe the right to become his priest. I mean, his guardians. Okay. They chose, by them doing this, let me slow my thought process down. When they did this, when they decided to kill those people and do what Yahweh said and take Yahweh's side, Yahweh decided to choose them to be his guardians over the Torah and to be guardians over the Mishkan and to be the ones who are going to set it up. Prior to that happening, all the firstborn of Israel was responsible for doing those duties. Okay. That's who was responsible. They forfeited their right as the firstborn to be able to do this job and these things for Yah. And therefore, by doing so, Yah put the children of the family of Levi in charge of these things. It doesn't negate the fact that the firstborn are still considered the firstborn to Yah, and everything that comes out of the womb belongs to Yah. The firstborn of the males and the firstborn of animals, of males, belong to Yahweh. Okay, and we learn this in Exodus chapter number 13, where he says, everything that comes out the womb is mine. All right. However, due to the fact that Israel forfeited their right as firstborn sons, Yah needed someone to stand in their place, and he chose the family of the Leviim to do so. The sons of Levi are the ones now that are in place of the firstborns. Okay. Did you guys read that in Numbers where it tells you that they're going to take the place of the firstborn?
Yes, we did.
So we're studying today. What's the question is this: if the Levi take the position of the firstborn, okay, and in lieu of it, and they're doing the duty and the responsibilities, how does that affect this idea of, and they were redeemed. They redeemed the firstborns. Okay. All the firstborns of the families were redeemed through the Leviim. Okay. And of course, there was more children of Israel than there were Leviim, so they had to pay 5 shekels of silver. But my question to you is this, and I want your feedback on this. If that's the case, how is it that somebody not from the tribe of Levi can redeem Israel? Can Israel be redeemed? That's my question. Can Israel be redeemed outside of the family of Levi? Can they be?
I don't know.
Can anybody take their place?
No.
No. So when the New Testament tells you that some man came from the so-called opposite tribe of Judah, right, which you and I have no real record of that. There's no real registry of that. And then they give a list of names to say that he came from this family, which if you look at those names, you'll find out that there's a lot of errors in those names. And there's actually one king who never supposed to have ruled in Israel ever again, and never none of his descendants. His name is called Jeconiah. Okay, but that's another side note. What the point that I'm trying to make here to you is this: that Yah has chosen this in particular family, this in particular tribe, to be the ones to draw near to him, to guard the Mishkan, and to provide Torah education to the people. That's the job. I thought at first that it was just a Kohanim. It's not just a Kohanim. And let me show that to you. The book of Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy, and it's going to be in chapter number 33. Just like Yaakov gave his sons in chapter number 49 of Genesis, the blessings after his death, listen what it says in chapter number 33. This is the blessing that Moshe, the man of Elohim, spoke over the people or the sons of Israel before his death. See, so now here's where he's about to tell them what's going to happen to them. So he goes on and he's beginning to tell them who they are and what's going on. Let's find out what he said, because he's going to talk to each one of the sons. But now we're going to find out, what did he say to Laywe? Because this is what we're talking about. He said this. Laywe in verse number 8. This is Deuteronomy chapter number 33. He says this of Laywe: let your Thummim and your Urim be with your pious one. The Thummim and the Urim are the stones that were used for making decisions. And we also know inside of Laywe, you have the Kohanim. And the Kohanim are the priest. Okay. What family? What's the name of the high priest? Aharon. What's the name of and then he has his sons, okay, which are Eleazar and Ithamar. Okay, so those are the Kohanim. So we got the priest. Okay, so they're part of it. They're part of this family. Okay, and then he says, let it be with your pious one, whom you tested at Massah and whom you struggled with in Merah spring. Of his father and his mother, he said, I don't know them. He didn't acknowledge his brothers or his children. What do you mean? When did this happen? When did Laywe didn't acknowledge his father and his mother? Come on now. You guys been reading the Torah. This is to get you sharp. When did he not acknowledge them? When did he say, I don't acknowledge his brothers or his children? When did he do that? We just read it. What did he do? He killed his own family members. Why? Somebody tell me.
The side of Yah.
Because he had to take the side of Yah, and what they were doing is they were defending Yah's Torah. Okay, so he says that you didn't acknowledge him, his brother or his children. And so when you put the pieces together, this is the type of person that Yah needs in order to be able to defend the Torah. Okay, and of course they didn't do such a great job at the end, but the fact of the matter is that they took a side. Okay, and that's something that Yah is trying to bring out to us about this family. Then he says, for he observed your word and he kept your covenant. He did this. And this is their job. They will teach Yaakov your rulings and Yisrael your Torah. They will set incense before you and the whole burnt offerings on your altar. The children of Israel are no longer able to walk before Yahweh in that manner, meaning to do these things. This is what we're supposed to have done for Yah. But because we were just unfaithful to him and because we betrayed him, he put this other family in place. Okay. So this family is going to be in place for the rest of all eternity. No one is going to replace these people. Okay. Anybody that tries to replace them or circumvent their authority and do their job will be what?
Killed.
They will be put to death. Okay. You say, well, David, you're always talking about death and all this kind of stuff. Why do you keep mentioning this? Because Yahweh wants us to know that, listen, once I put these people in their place, no one can replace them. No one. Okay. Listen to this. Deuteronomy chapter number 18 says this about the Kohanim who are Leviim. He says, and instead of the whole tribe of Laywe, indeed the whole tribe of Laywe, it is not to have a share or inheritance with Israel. Instead, their support will come from the food offered by fire to Yahweh and from whatever else becomes his. They will have no inheritance with their brothers because Yahweh is their inheritance. For he has said to them, okay, as he has said to them, the Kohen or the Kohanim will have the right to receive from the people, from those offerings, a sacrifice, whether an ox or sheep or a shoulder or the jaws, meaning the jaws, and the stomach. You will also give to him the first fruit of your grain, your new wine, your olive oil, and the first of your fleece of your sheep. So this is not just going to just Aaron and his sons. This is going to the whole tribe of Levi, okay? And for Yahweh, your Elohim has chosen him. Chosen who? He's chosen the tribe of Levi to stand and serve in the name of Yahweh, him and his sons forever. Okay, so if a Levi from one of your towns anywhere in Israel comes highly motivated to the place where Yahweh will choose, then he will serve in the name of Yahweh, his Elohim. So I mention this here because I want you to know that the service of the Leviim can be anywhere where Yahweh will choose. It's not just in Jerusalem. It says if he comes to any one of your towns, anywhere in Israel, anywhere, okay, where he live and he comes there and he's highly motivated to do the service of Yah, he then will serve there in the name of Yahweh. That's his job. Just as his relatives, the Leviim, who stand and serve in the presence of Yahweh. So their family has access to all different types of food and everything. That's how they made their living. Yes, Azanya.
Yes, I was just thinking about all the people that have died and fallen from grace, including kings, trying to perform the service of Levi. And I'm trying to think of the king. I think it was Uzziah. Yeah.
Uzziah. Uzziah.
Yes. I mean, he basically, wasn't it? He almost got he really fell hard trying to offer incense. So, it's just like a redundancy of that within our people. Yeah.
Yes. That's the point that we're bringing out here is that with our people, they have gotten a little sideways with it. They think that they could just, do this and they can't. You can't take on a service that doesn't belong to you. That's what he's saying. It's an order. Okay. So what we have here again in Numbers, let's just look at the Torah portion. In Numbers, there's certain places where he says, okay, I'm going to grab these Nasis. Okay. I'm going to talk to the Nasi. I want to take a sense of the entire assembly of the people by clans and families. And then he goes on to tell you they need to be 20 years old and up to put them in a service. We talked about this earlier this week. But then he goes on, he says, take the men from Reuven and from all these different tribes, okay? And all of these names that you see right here, I just wanted to show you. All of these names are the leaders, okay? A leader in the Hebrew is called a Nasi, N-A-S-I. That's how you transliterate it into English, okay? A Nasi, okay? And a Nasi is a leader. A Nasi is a prince. Okay. Our people are from what you would call royalty. All right. So every time he told them to take one of the sons from one of these places, Reuben's family, Shimon's family, Yehuda, Yissachar, Zevulun, all these different families, and he puts it in a certain order. Okay. There's a certain order that he puts it in, and it has to do with who their mother is. Okay. Which it'll take some time to break that down. But I wanted to share with you the different names of these in particular princes. Okay. So when Yah he said, take a census, I need you to count these people in the wilderness, right? I'm going to tell you the name. I'm going to give you the record. I need you to record the names of all the men. Yah is the one who chose these people. Okay. He chose them. Right. So, and this is just a census for the children of Israel. So when he have these different names like Shlumiel, that means that Elohim is my shalom, he's my peace. Then his name, he's a son of Zuri Shaddai. My rock is El Shaddai. We got Nachshon, which is the serpent, right, of the son of Aminadav. This name right here, Ami means my people, and then Nadav is willing. So my people are willing. So you can see how Yah is choosing people according to their names and according to the character of their fathers. Okay. Natael means Yahweh gives, for Natan means to give, and El is Elohim. He's the son of Zuar, meaning that he's the son of light, or the rock of light. Then we got Zevulun. His name is Aliav. My father is El, okay, the son of Kalon. Okay. Kalon means the one who's not of debt, right? So all these different sons, all these different princes had a certain type of character that Yah wanted to be representative of the people that are going to be leading thousands. Okay. I would advise all of us to memorize every single one of these names, not, not these names of Shemuel, of Zeruiah, and all these. But I would say to us that it would be good for you to know your family. You should know what this means. You should know what Reuven means. So tell me, what does Reuven mean? Somebody tell me. Behold, I see a son. See, re'eh and vain means son. I see a son right here. That's what she had. Shimon. She cried out to Yah, and guess what she said? Yah has heard me. Okay, Yehuda. What does Yehuda mean?
Praise.
Praise. These are important to remember. Quick question for you. Where's Yehuda in reference to the tabernacle? What is he on, the north, east, west, or south? What part is he on?
The east.
He's on the east. The east is the opening. Where does the sun rise from?
East.
The east. Okay. So when should we praise Yah? According to Psalms 113.
Sunrises.
From the rising
Of the sun.
of the sun in the east to the setting of the same, which is in the west. You understand? When we look at the book of Ezekiel, and the prince is there and he's making an offering, he's making that offering at the east gate. Okay. And this is the reason why he's from the tribe of Judah, because Yehuda means praise. Okay. We're going to get a little bit more detail about that. Yissachar. What does Yissachar's name mean? How did his mother name him Yissachar, and why? Well,
I mean, the men of higher.
yes, he's higher. Thank you. H-I-R-E, to hire. For what? Wages. Because she gave her husband to her sister, and as a result of that, Yah allowed her to get pregnant and said, oh, for my hire, for me hiring out my husband, I receive my wages. So Yissachar is wages. And then the Yis here is he. He is my wages. See, and that's from his mother. Okay. Zevulun. Zevulun means to dwell. Now my husband's going to dwell with me. Okay. And then you got the children of Yosef and Ephraim, mean to be bountiful. You have the son of Manasseh, means I'm going to forget my toil. in my trouble. Benjamin is son of my right hand. Dan, Elohim is my judge. The mother felt like God judged on her behalf. Asher is I've received wealth. God is fortune. My fortune, this is my fortune of all these sons that I have. Naphtali, I've wrestled with my sister. So all these names represent the character of the nation of Israel. And so we're going through different stages of these names, okay? So that's part of that. So then you can see all the numbers of these people, how they've been separated from military service. Okay, and they give the numbers. The total was 603,550 in each one of these people to their clan, okay? But it did say that Yah did not include the clan of Levi. Why? Because they're not to be taken. They're not included. So we need to understand that when Yah did not include the tribe of Levi, he's not making Levi, and I want to be clear, he's not making Levi more special than any other sons. He's not making them more special. They just have a different function and they have a different job that they're supposed to do. Okay. Therefore, because they've been set apart for Yah, he's saying that, listen, they have a way to function for me. How I'm going to use him now is he's not going to have any inheritance in the land. That's number one. Secondly, he's going to belong to me. Okay. That in particular tribe is going to belong to me. And within that tribe, I'm going to have a division called the Kohanim, who are supposed to do this, the service inside of my sanctuary. And then I'm going to have those who are not a Kohanim, who are going to do the service outside of my sanctuary. Okay. Now, I need to divide these people up. Okay. And so based on their name, Lewi means to join, right? So Yah is saying, I want to join. This is how I'm going to stay connected. Okay. The first letter of the name of Lewi is Lamed. Okay. And Lamed is the name of that letter, but also that word comes from another word called Lamad, and Lamad means to learn. This is the reason why Moshe blessed them and said that you guys are going to be the teachers of the Torah so the people can learn. That's what it is. Okay. So they need to learn. So that's the first letter of his name. Then you have the next one is a Wa. Okay. That's the next letter. And we know that the Wa means and it means it's a conjunction, and it means to what? It means to join, because it is a tent peg. Okay. And so the tent peg joins the tent to the ground right here. They got little tent pegs and you got the ropes that tie into them. And what does the tent peg do for the tent?
Keeps it up.
It keeps it up. It adds what? Stability. So when Yah is talking about these people that come and do his service, he's saying that I got to choose the family that I want, because guess what? They have stability. I know if I needed somebody to handle my business for me and who would guard and who'd be willing to kill anybody, it's this in particular people. Would I put Reuven in charge of guarding the temple? Why wouldn't he put Reuven in charge? You guys know, what did Reuven do? His father told him that you're weak as water because you went into my tent and slept with one of my wives. So the choosing and the responsibility that Yah gives to an individual is based on their character. What we need to understand is this: none of us know what tribe we're from. We don't know that. Okay. But what we do know is that whenever we get back to our position and back into our land, you and I are going to be divided and put according to our families. What I discovered in my teaching, in my studying this week, was that the firstborn is responsible. The responsibility of the firstborn is divine. They have a divine responsibility to represent the whole entire family. If you're a firstborn male in your family, you have a responsibility to operate in Yahweh's will for the family, to be a representative of the family. Yah is concerned not only with the rest of the whole house of Israel, but you're connected to Yah through the firstborn. There's a reason why he said, I've killed the firstborn. There's a reason why Yahweh wants the first fruits of the ground. There's a reason why he wants the first, because the first is supposed to be the strongest. And this is what it was so disappointing for Yaakov, because he said to his son, we can read it. He told him, you're weak as water. You're weak. You're unstable. You don't have no stability. So in our understanding of the Levi'im, Yah's letting us know, I'm choosing the people that are going to be what? That are going to have a steady hand, okay? The next letter, okay, in Laywe's name is the Yod. The Yod. And the Yod represents the hand, okay? It represents the hand. But also, too, if you've been in my Hebrew class, you know the Yod on the end of a word means of me, meaning of my hand. That's why it's mine. It's possessive. Praise be to Yahweh. Even within the name of Laywe, you can see Yah saying, I got the teacher. Laywe is the one that I'm going to use to join. His first letter is to represent learning and also means authority, means strong authority, means the staff. I also have the next letter, which is the Wa. The Wa has to join. It's a tent peg. I'm going to join him. And the reason why is because he's of my hand. He's the one who's going to do my work for me. He's going to be the one I'm going to use to set up my tabernacle and to bring and put it down. I'm going to use him to guard my tabernacle. I'm going to use him to teach my people. I'm going to use him as my hand to go and recover the tenths of all the people. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use him. So when we have these preachers and these pastors and these rabbis and the rest of these people going around saying that they're from this in particular tribe, and if they're not, Yah says, I'm going to put them to death. I know we are excited and we get exuberant about the things that we can do and whatnot. And we got a lot of zeal, but we should not let our zeal, as Azania just said, there was a king named Uzziah who decided he didn't want to wait for the priest to do anything. So he took it upon himself. Listen to me. And he went to go light that incense. He received Zazarat for the rest of his life. And I think we've done a study on it before, and it talked about how this young man was wonderful, how he trusted Yah, he consulted Yah. And then all of a sudden, when he stopped consulting Yah, he went ahead and he was consulting Yah through the Kohanim. He was consulting Yah through the Urim and the Thummim. Let me give you another example. Tell me what happened with David. What happened with David when David did something that he didn't supposed to do? Tell me about that, what you know, when he became afraid of Yahweh. What did he do? Somebody tell me what happened. I'm challenging you because I want you to know that we need to study. Okay. So
when he started, I'm sorry. You want when he counted, when he counted, I don't know the word for it, but yeah, he decided to count, and I don't know the word. I don't know why that adjective is slipping from me right now, but you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
And here it is. David made a couple of mistakes. Okay. He made a couple of mistakes. Here's one. Okay. Here's one. In 1 Chronicles chapter number 15, David erected buildings for himself in the city of David. Okay. He prepared a place for the ark of Elohim and set up a tent for it. Then David said, no one but the Levi'im should carry the ark of Elohim, because Yahweh chose them to carry the ark of Yahweh and serve him forever. These are the only people that's supposed to put their hands on the ark. Somebody tell me, since you read your Torah portion, when could the Levi'im put their hands on the ark? What had to happen before they put their hands on the ark? Who
was it? It had to be prepared for travel.
It had to be prepared. So who was responsible for preparing the ark and the vessels before anybody touched it?
Oh, the priest.
Yes, it's the priest. It was Eleazar. Okay, he's supposed to go in, him and Aaron, and they're supposed to pull the curtain down I don't want to read it to you. We can, but I just want to explain it to you. They were the ones to take down the curtain and cover the Ark of the Covenant, cover the shlukan, which is the bread of presence with the bread on it, cover the menorah, and it goes to all different ways it's supposed to cover it, put skin over it, put the blue linen over it and everything. So there's a certain way you're supposed to do it. The Leviim were not allowed to go in to do this. The only thing they were supposed to do is transport. If they touched that, if they even looked at the Ark of the Covenant, or they touched or looked with their eyes at any of the vessels inside of the tabernacle, they were to be put to death. Now, here's the flip side. The Kohanim, the priests, they were not allowed to touch not even a crossbar, okay, that they didn't have no business. They're not supposed to go out and touch and carry anything. If they were to touch that, Yah would kill them.
Is that what happened to the guy that tried to stabilize the ark?
That's what exactly we were about to read here, Aki. So what I'm saying to you is, Yah has made it where no one is better and special than anybody. Yah did not give the Torah, listen to me, he did not give the Torah to the Kohanim and the Leviim only. The Torah has been given to the whole entire house of Israel. How it's dispensed is the way that Yah chose. Yah has chosen a certain way to it's supposed to be done. And if you've been reading, you'll find out that certain people can touch things and others can't. So the Leviim can touch things that the Kohanim can't touch. And the Kohanim can touch things and cover things that the Leviim can't touch. You see? So everyone has to bear that, okay? But at any rate, David was ready to carry this Ark of the Covenant to the place that he prepared. Okay, and so it goes on, and he gives you the names of the individuals. Look, he got all the descendants of his kinmen. He gathered Aharon and Leviim and so forth and so on. And he said that, verse number 12, you are the clans of the Leviim. Consecrate yourselves both, you and the kinsmen, to bring the ark of Yahweh up to the place I have prepared for it. Okay, then he says this, it was because you weren't there the first time. And I believe that's in chapter number 14. Chapter number 14, David got so excited and he had some zeal, and he went and he touched and he said, listen, let's bring this. And then Yah, he was having a great time until somebody called Uzziah reached out and what? They touched it. They touched the ark to try to stabilize it. And Yah broke out on them. Listen to this. Where's it at? Protected. Or 13. That was in 13. I'm sorry. Back in 15. So the Leviim were not there the first time. And as a result of that, people died and David became afraid of Yahweh. Okay. So 13 is because you weren't there. And the first time that Yahweh, our Elohim, broke out against us, we didn't seek him according to the rule. And you and I can learn a lot from this. It's here for us to understand. You and I have to seek Yahweh out according to the rule. Now, what Yahweh is telling us here from this experience that David had is that, guess what? Don't be superficial about it and say, well, we know that we can't touch this because we're not Leviim. It goes deeper. It had to do with whether or not they were going to follow the rule. There's rules, regulations. That word right there is called rule, which is a mishpatim. Okay, it's a ruling according to what Yahweh has specified. So the Kohanim and the Leviim consecrated themselves to bring up the ark of Yahweh of Israel. The Leviim carried the ark. Why? Because the Kohanim are not allowed to carry the ark. If they did, they would be killed. And the ark of Elohim on their shoulders with its poles, as Moshe had ordered, according to what Yahweh has said, which is always going to be our theme. It's what did he say? Okay. You say, well, how do all this apply to us today? Well, we can learn from this by understanding that if someone's going around saying that they're a Leviim and that they're a priest and they have no way of proving it, you should not listen to that person. It's dangerous because they've already showed you that they don't have any respect for what? The rule, according to what Moshe was ordered. according to what Yahweh has said. It has to be that way. You understand? And so at this in particular point, I wanted to bring out that the Leviim had a little bit more responsibility besides just carrying and setting up the tabernacle at that time. David had eventually set up a chief of the Leviim, and he appointed them to be singers. This is how they became singers. So once the tabernacle was brought into the city of David, David then began to talk about, hey, Yah's living in a tent, and Yah begins to give him the promise and say, hey, you want to build a house for me, but guess what? You're not going to build that house, but I'll let one of your sons do it. And then, then I will allow him to do it and I'll be praised. But then David is the one who put the Leviim in place with their music instruments and their lyres and their cymbals. And so he's going to give you the names of these people. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you, because I like to teach this to you, is that they tell you right here what the names of these in particular people are. Asaph, Etan, and what's this other one? Kinsman Yoel, Haman. Okay. So these in particular individuals right here, you're going to see their names all through the Psalms. I know you've probably seen it, a Psalm of Etan, a Psalm of Asaph, a teaching from them. Well, these are the individuals that are the descendants of Merari. These are the descendants of the Leviim from the family. You understand? So this is how these singers, Asaph and Etan, they were appointed. Okay. And then it goes on when you read a psalm and it has this word that was on the alamoth. It tells you what an alamoth means. It says, remember, they said a psalm according and it was played on an alamoth. Well, alamoth is a high-pitched sound. And then you would see another psalm that said it was played on a sheminith. It tells you that a sheminith is a low-pitched music instrument. You see? So this is how you find out what is in the Psalms and how and why they were written, because these are the individuals that were supposed to speak Yahweh's words and tell about all of the great things that he did. And they were commanded by David to do this. So you can see that Yah has even expanded their responsibility. Okay. And so that's what you're going to find in this book right here in 1 Chronicles chapter number 15. And so David himself, this is something that people always ask the question about. Well, what was David doing? Because it says David and the Leviim bearing the ark, and the singers and the Kanayan, the music leader for the singers, were all wearing linen cloaks. And David was also wearing a ritual vest. He was the king. So he put on a linen ritual vest. Is he saying that he's a prince or he's a Kohanim? No. He's saying, I'm the king. I want to set these Leviim, and Yahweh gave him permission to do so. You said, well, where's that at? That's in 1 Chronicles chapter number 22, I believe, where he says that the spirit of Yahweh was on me and gave me instruction on what to say and what to do. So here, all Israel brought up the ark of Yahweh with shouting and blowing the shofars and trumpets and the cymbals and the soundings of the lutes and the lyres. And all these people that were doing this, all Israel brought it up, but they brought it up from these individuals, the Leviim. They're the ones that Yah has chosen from all the people to do this. And then it goes on to talk about how the covenant entered the city, and Saul's daughter was watching from the window. She saw the king dancing and celebrating. She was filled with hatred and contempt for him because he was doing something that it was never been done before. And of course, they said that he danced so hard when he was bringing in the ark that he danced himself out of his linen cloak. That's how much David was praising Yah. Okay. There's something that I want to share with you in First Chronicles chapter number 16. We already mentioned where Yahweh had told us that David had ordered these things to be given Yahweh through Asaph and his family members, right? And then this is what he says, because this is the job of the Leviim. And you and I can learn from this, because he said the Leviim are in place to teach us the Torah. So part of the Torah is understanding how and when and who should be able to praise Yah. It says, give thanks to Yahweh and call on his name. Make his deeds known among the peoples. Sing to him, sing praises to him, talk about all his wonders, glory in his name. Let those seeking Yahweh have joyful hearts. Seek Yahweh and his strength, always seek his presence. Remember the wonders he has done, his signs and his spoken judgments. You descendants of Israel, here you go. if you're a descendant of Israel, Israel was Yahweh's servant. That's what he was. And this is when Yah says, I'm going to bring you out of the lands that I've had you in. You're going to be a servant to me. Okay. I'm going to declare that. You offspring of Yaakov, his chosen ones. You and I are chosen. He is Yahweh, our Elohim. His judgments are everywhere on the earth. Remember his covenant forever. How long should you remember it? If you are a descendant, you're supposed to remember the covenant for how long?
Forever.
Forever.
And the word that he commanded to how many generations?
Thousands.
1,000 generations. Okay. The covenant he made with Abraham, the oath he swore to Yitzchak, and he established a kukim, okay, a law for Yaakov. For Israel, as how long? An everlasting covenant. So when someone wants to tell you that the covenant is done away with and it's over, you need to bring them to First Chronicles chapter number 16, and you can begin in verse number 16, 16, okay? That the covenant is forever, okay? To you, I will give the land of Canaan. I told you, and I've been saying it for the last couple of months, that the covenant that he's promised to us is an everlasting covenant to give you the land of Canaan as your allotted heritage. When you were but few in number, not only a few, but aliens there too, wandering from nation to nation, from kingdom to that people, he allowed no one to oppress them. Yes, for their sakes, he rebuked even kings. He killed over 31 kings for Israel. He killed them. Say it again. He killed over 31 kings. He allowed no one to oppress them. Yes, for their sakes, he rebuked even kings. Do not touch my anointed ones. Now, that word anointed right there is called Mashiach. So you guys are being told you're waiting on a Mashiach. You and I are the anointed ones. And you and I, and he says, do my prophets no harm, which are the people in your family that Yah has used. I got prophets among those people. I got to know these people are anointed. These people are not to be touched. If anybody touches them, I'm going to kill them. Okay. Anyone who does any harm to Israel is going to be dealt with. I was having a discussion with somebody yesterday, and they insist on believing that what's happened to the so-called African-American has happened to other people as well. And it's not a big deal. And, you know, race doesn't matter. And I said to him that it's not about color. What it is about culture. And the question is this, and I want everyone to think about it. If Yahweh is going to come back and judge the world, what punishment or what crime has the African-American done against any other nation that they would be held responsible for?
No.
If he's coming back to judge the world, what is the African-American, the so-called Negro? What are they going to be judged for? For what did they do to all the other nations?
We didn't do anything.
We ain't did nothing to them. We have done it to ourselves, but we haven't done anything to them. You understand? A lot of people have a problem with this, okay? They have a problem with what Yah is going to do for his people. Yah doesn't care. Listen to me carefully. Yah cares about Yisrael, okay? All the other nations mean something to him. And I want to show you what they mean to him so you and I can move on, okay? Let's see what they mean to him. Okay? Listen what Yahweh says. Yah says this. Let's just start in verse number 10. Here comes Yahweh Elohim with power. His arm will rule for him. Look, his reward is with him. His recompense is before him. That's the setting. He's like a what? He's like a shepherd, feeding his flock, gathering his lambs with his arm. Yah's the shepherd, carrying them against his chest, gently leading the mother sheep, who has counted the handfuls of water in the sea and measured off the sky with a ruler. Who has counted? Gauged how much dust is on the earth. Weighed the mountains on scales or the hills in a balance. That's the question. In Hebrew, the word meh, which is a mem and a yod. Oh, forgive me. I don't know why they did that. Meh, the Hebrew word for you, a meh. A M, which is a meh, a mem and a yod, and to put it in English is an M and an I, meh. Okay, that's the question that's asked, and it's a question, and it says, "Who has counted the handfuls of water in the sea?" That's the question. Who's measured off the sky with a ruler? That's the question. Gauge how much dust is here on the earth. That's the question. Weigh the mountains on the scales or the hills in a balance. That's the question. Question, who has measured the spirit of Elohim? Who has been his counselor instructing him? These are questions. Whom did he consult to gain understanding? Who taught him how to judge, taught him what he needed to know, showed him how to discern? Those are questions. Here's the answer. The nations are like a drop in a bucket. They count like a grain of dust on the scales. The islands weigh as little as the specks of dust. Lebanon would not suffice for his fuel, for its animals would be enough for burnt offerings. Before him, all the nations are like nothing. And listen, he regards them as less than nothing. They are nothing. They're nothing. He says that I'm going to put an end to all the nations on the face of the earth, but I will not completely destroy you. With whom then will you compare Elohim? Who are you comparing me to? By what standard will you evaluate him? An image made by a craftsman on a cross? A goldsmith that overlays it with gold as a statue? Or would cast even silver chains? Who are you comparing me with? Who? And he's making mention of the nations because the nations are the ones who are trying to define who he is. A man too poor to afford an offering chooses a piece of wood that won't rot. Then he seeks out a skilled artisan to prepare an image that won't fall over. Don't you know? Don't you hear? Haven't you been told from the start? Don't you understand how the earth was set up? He who sits above the circle of the earth, from whom its inhabitants appear like grasshoppers, stretches out the heavens like a curtain and spreads them out like a tent to live in. He reduces Nasi to nothing, rulers of the earth to emptiness. Then he talks about how there's scarcely planted and scarcely sown and scarcely stem taking root in the ground, because earlier in this chapter, he talks about how the humanity is nothing but grass to him, and that their life is nothing, it blows away. So the question is, to whom will you compare me? With whom am I equal? Asked the Holy One. You see? Turn your eyes to the heavens. See who created these and bring out the army, the Zavaoth of them in sequence, summoning each by name. Through his great might and massive strength, no, not one of them is missing. And then he asks us a question. Why do you complain, Yaakov? Why do you say, Yisrael, my way is hidden from Yahweh, my rights are being ignored by my Elohim? He says, haven't you known, haven't you heard that the everlasting Elohim, Yahweh, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not grow tired or weary? His understanding cannot be fathomed. He invigorates the exhausted and gives strength to the powerless, meaning he's letting us know that you and I are going to come to the point of being exhausted and being powerless, but he plans on strengthening us. The young men will grow tired and weary, but even the fittest may stumble and fall. But those who hope in Yahweh will renew their strength, and they will soar aloft as with eagle's wings. When they are running, they won't grow weary, and when they're walking, they won't get tired. That's Yah's intention for his people. Yah doesn't care about the nations, not in that sense. He cares about Israel. And that's been a hard pill for everybody to understand, and they don't want to accept it. Okay. Part of our Torah portion too that we read this week I didn't have a picture of it, but one of the things that he wanted to bring out for us is the book of Hosea, and it's in chapter number, I want to just say number 3, because I want to deal with chapter number 3 to bring a little bit more context to what's going on. Okay. Chapter number 1 and 2, Yahweh tells the children of Israel, not the tribe of Judah, but the children of Israel, the other northern tribes, that they were not going to be called his people any longer. And they're called Lo-Ami. He also said that I'm not going to have pity. There's times where Yahweh will say that these people are not his people. And there's times when he says that I'm not going to have mercy. And you and I need to understand that, guess what? Yah can do whatever he chooses to do at any given time he wants to. Okay. So listen what Yahweh told Hosea. And to give you a backdrop on this, Hosea's wife is a prostitute. And Yah told him to marry her. And she had children with him, but she also had children who were questionable by other men. And Yah said, name this child this and name this child this, which was figurative of what was going on with him and his people. Okay, but Yahweh says this. He said this to me. Go once more and show love to this wife of yours who has been loved by her boyfriend, to this adulteress. Just as Yahweh loves the people of Israel, even though they turn to other gods and love the raisin cakes offered to them. So I brought her back to myself. This is Hosea talking. His name means salvation. For 15 pieces of silver and 8 bushels of barley. And this is what he told her. You are to remain in seclusion for a long time and be mine. You are not to be a prostitute, and you are not to be with any other man. And I won't come in to have sex with you either. For the people of Israel are going to be in seclusion for a long time. Okay. This is what he's letting us know. The people of Israel are going to be in seclusion for a long time without a king, prince, sacrifice, standing stone, ritual vest, household gods. Afterwards, the people of Israel will repent and seek Yahweh their Elohim and David their king. They will come trembling to Yahweh and his goodness in the Akarith Hamayim. Akarith means the days after, the following days, the last days. Okay. I want to deal with this, this idea of us not having a sacrifice and not having a king or a prince and a standing stone. We don't have an altar. We don't have any of these things. Okay. And that's because Israel has been put in seclusion. And it's going to be a long time. Okay. Chapter number 2 says that Yah says, go ahead and I'm going to woo my woman back to me. I'm going to woo this woman who's been a prostitute and a whoreman chasing after everyone else. I'm going to woo her back to me. I'm going to bring her out and I'm going to talk to her and I'm going to bring her back to me. But prior to this happening, he says, listen, when I do go get her, she's going to be in seclusion for a long time. Okay. And the seclusion here of her, this prostitute being in seclusion, is what Yah says Israel is going to be in seclusion. Okay. When he talks about sex, he's talking about intimacy. Okay. So in this text here, the king, the prince, the sacrifice, which has to do the priest, and these standing stones. Yah had no standing stones, but this is what they had. They put standing stones in their place. The ritual vest, right? We saw that David had one. We also know the priests wore one. The household gods are the gods that they had. He said that you guys are not going to have these things for a long, long time. But the intimacy with Yah is based on having a sacrifice and having individuals there to help prepare the sacrifice. That's intimacy with Yah. To know Yah, meaning Yada Yah, Yada means to know. That's what it means, to know. And it means to draw near, okay, to draw near as if one is going near for intimacy, okay? So to know Yah and to draw near to him, you and I have realized that the only two people who can do this is the Kohanim, right? And the Leviim. So if you and I don't have any Kohanim and we don't have a Leviim, you know we don't have a king. So that puts us in a position where we don't have really true intimacy with Yah. We're not going to have that. We're not going to be able to be close to him until he decides to come and get us and bring us back. And then he's going to take us through a cleansing process. And then once we go through our cleansing process, you and I then will be prepared to be able to approach him and to bring that to him, which he's always wanted. Okay. we read earlier that Yah talked about us or him being our shepherd, as we read in Isaiah. Yah is a shepherd to us, but also too, one of the things that you and I need to understand is that right now, Yah said, I put different shepherds over you. Okay. And this is in Ezekiel chapter number 34. He said this. He said, I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's long, it's huge. What it was is that Yah says this in verse number 11. Or just say 10. Yahweh Elohim says, I'm against the shepherds. Okay. I demand that they hand my sheep back to me. I will not allow them to feed the sheep. They won't feed themselves either. I will rescue my sheep from their mouths, and they will be food for them no longer. For here's what Yahweh Elohim says, I'm taking over. I want you to understand this. I'm taking over. I will search for my sheep and look after them myself. I'm going to search for my sheep. Okay. Just as the shepherd looks after his sheep and finds himself among the scattered sheep, I will look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all the places where they have been scattered when it was cloudy and dark. I will bring them back from those peoples, gather them from those countries and return them to their own land. I will let them feed on the mountains of Israel by the streams in the livable places of the land. I will have them feed in the good pastures. He's becoming our shepherd. You see, he says, I'm shepherding them. I'm going to go find them myself. They're going to be grazing on the high mountains of Israel when I bring them back. Okay. Here we go. They will rest in good grazing pastures, okay, or grounds, and feed in rich pastures of Israel's mountains. I opened up our study talking about Yah as our shepherd. And this is the goal that the shepherd wants to do. He wants to bring us back to our land. He wants to bring us to a place where you and I are resting. Yes, I will pasture my sheep. I will let them rest, says Yahweh Elohim. I will. You hear all the I wills? Not they will, I will. I will do all these things to them. I will, okay? And I'm going to seek the lost and bring them back, the outcast, the bandaged, the broken, strengthen the sick, but the fat and the strong, I will destroy. I will feed them with judgment, okay? As for you, my flock, Yahweh Elohim says, I will judge between sheep and other sheep, between rams and billy goats. This is where the New Testament in chapter number 25 of the book of Matthew gets that so-called judgment where they said, well, he's going to bring the sheep and the goats together. This is where they get it from. They're just taking Yahweh's words and twisting them to fit their narrative. 18, he says this, wasn't it enough for you to feed on the best pasture? He's talking to these other sheep. And the sheep that he's talking about are the fat ones, which are the people who have taken advantage of his people. He's talking to the ones who have been feeding and eating and drinking the clearest of the water and haven't been fair to the other sheep. They've been butting them. They've been trampling the rest of the pasture by fouling the remaining water with their feet, meaning that they're not giving them the words that would help them, to revive them, to strengthen them. So now my sheep eat what you have trampled with your feet and drink water fouled by your feet. Therefore, here's what Yahweh Elohim says. I will judge between the fat sheep and the thin sheep, because you push them with your flanks and your shoulders, and you butt all the weak ones with your horns till you scatter them in every direction. Therefore, I will save my flock. They will no longer be prey. I will. If you notice, it's always I will judge between the sheep and other sheep. I will. Does it sound like he's doing this with somebody else? He says, I will. I will raise up one shepherd. I'm going to raise up one shepherd, okay, to be in charge of them, and he will let them feed my servant David. David is going to be Yahweh's shepherd. And when I'm talking about David, just to be clear, we're talking about one of David's descendants. He mentions my servant David because he's talking about someone, a descendant out of the family of David. And one of the family members of David is among the children of Israel right now. Okay. And I'm going to show that to you before we leave today. So David is going to be Yahweh's shepherd. David is going to be his servant who's going to feed him, and he will pasture them and be their shepherd. Yah's transferring over the power and authority of shepherding to the one that he's always wanted to give it to, which is David and his family, one of the descendants. I, Yahweh, will be their Elohim, and my servant David will be a Nasi. He's going to be a prince among them. I, Yahweh, have spoken. Okay, this is what it is. Now, when is this going to happen? It's going to happen when he says this in verse 25, I will make a covenant of peace with them. So when people are talking about, oh, well, you know, the covenant is done away with, Yah's going to make another covenant. The covenant that he's going to make is one of shalom. And the one of shalom means that he'll never allow anybody to attack us anymore. We will never be put out of our land again. We will never be attacked ever again. We'll never be displaced ever again. I will rid the land of wild animals, and they will live securely in the desert and sleep in the forest. That is metaphoric language to tell us that you and I, no matter where we lay our head, Yah is always going to be with us. I will make them places around my hill a blessing. Okay. And I will cause rain that we talked about earlier that shall fall when it should. So there will be showers of blessing. Again, that's what our blessings are. It comes from the rain, which hits the land. The trees in the field, physical trees in the field, will bear their fruit physically. The soil will its produce physical, and they will live and they will be, secure in their land physically. Then they will know that I am Yahweh. So you and I will only know this when we are living in peace. You and I don't know Yahweh the way that he wants us to know him. We'll know Yahweh when we see the showers and when we see the fruit on the trees and when we're living at home and we're back on our soil. And listen what he says I will do. When I break the bars of their yoke and rescue them from the power of those who've turned them into slaves. I asked the question to a guy last night. He claims that the people in the Ashkenazis are the Jewish people, that they're the Jews, they're the Yehudi. If that's the case, when Yah comes, is he breaking any chains off their neck? No. Whose neck? Who's been turned into slaves? We have. And so no longer will they be prayed for the Goyim. See? So every time he talks about pray and he's talking about breaking bars, he's talking about the bars that the Goyim have put on the necks of his people. And he always associates the Goyim with the wild animals. They will not devour them because they're the heathen. They're the wild people. They're not lambs. They're not. And they will live securely. That's your salvation, with no one to make them afraid. Salvation means to be free from being in fear. Also, too, what did we find out that Yah said he's going to do? You have been noticing all the I wills. I will make what? I will make the productivity of their crops famous. That's physical. They will no longer be consumed by hunger. That's physical. Land physical, and bear the shame of the Goyim anymore. That's physical. They will know that I, Yahweh, their Elohim, am with them. As we said last week, Yahweh is not with us. Not when you and I are not living in safety. Not when you and I are in fear, when we don't have as much food as we want. You and I have to understand what this is. And that they, the house of Israel, are my people, says Yahweh. You, my sheep, the sheep in my pasture, human beings are human beings. I am your Elohim, says Yahweh, Elohim. Yahweh is our shepherd. Now, we read about David, and I told you that I was going to show you that he's among the children of Israel right now, okay? We go back to Hosea, and we're going to go to chapter number 1. Hosea chapter number 1. Listen to what it says. We got to get the backdrop on it. I'm gonna have to speed it up too. Let's see. Okay. All right. It's actually chapter number 2. All right. Chapter number 2 says this. Say to your brothers, Ami, meaning my people, and to your sisters, Rukama, meaning pity. Before he said they weren't my people. Now he's saying that they are. He says, rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she isn't my wife, and I'm not her husband. She must remove her whoring from her face and her adulteries between her breasts. Otherwise, I will strip her naked and place her as she was the day that she was born, and make her like a desert, a place like a dry land, and kill her with thirst. I will have no pity on her children, for they are children of whoring. Their mother prostituted herself. She who conceived them behaved shamelessly. She said, I will pursue my lovers who give me my food and my water, my flax, my olive oil and wine. But that's not what I wanted to read. Is it? Or they moved it? Oh, they moved it to 110. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm looking at my text, and then what they got on the computer is different. I'm sorry. Okay, here it is. Chapter number 1. Nevertheless, the people of Israel will number as many as the grains of the sand by the sea. Okay, because I'm not going to have pity, but I'm going to kill a whole bunch of them. But nevertheless, the people of Israel will number as many as the grains of the sand by the sea, which cannot be measured or counted. So that the time will come, instead of being told you are not my people, it will be said to them, you are the children of the living Elohim. Then the people of Yehuda and the people of Israel will be gathered together. I want you to keep this in mind. They will appoint for themselves one leader, and they will go up out of the land, for there will be a great day of Yisrael. This word right here, Yisrael, is not Yisrael, is Yisrael, okay? And that means to sow, okay? It means to sow, S-O-W, okay? And sow means to sow seed, because in this name right here is the word Zara. And Zara means seed, okay? And the first letter is a Yod, which means he. And so he will sow the seed. Who? Yahweh, El. That's what he's saying. So what he's saying is, when I gather these people together, the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Israel to back together again, I'm going to bring them back to their own land. And what they're going to do is this. Listen to this. He said that they will appoint for themselves one leader. And then we saw in chapter number 3, let me go there right quick, that since they're going to appoint this leader when they get back, okay? So the idea is, how can they appoint a leader? Where's the leader going to come from? Is he going to be resurrected? No. It says here in Hosea that for the people of Israel, in verse number 4, are going to be in seclusion for a long time without a king, a prince, a sacrifice, a standing stone, a ritual of Ezra household gods. Afterwards, the people of Israel will repent and what? And seek Yahweh, their Elohim, and David, their king. They will come trembling to Yahweh and his goodness in Akarat Hamayim. So this is who they're going to be seeking. All right. The book of Jeremiah is going to firm it up for us real quick. Jeremiah chapter number 30. It says this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read what he talks about David. Confirmed in his presence, people celebrating. Oh, here it is. Okay. So let's start here. The word of Yahweh came to Yeremiah from Yahweh. This is what Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, says. Write all these words I have spoken to you in a scroll. For the day is coming, says Yahweh, when I will reverse the exile of my people, Yisrael and Yehuda. This hasn't happened yet, says Yahweh. I will cause them to return to the land I gave to their ancestors, and they will take possession of it. These are the words Yahweh spoke concerning Israel and Yehuda. Here's what Yahweh says. We have heard a cry of terror, of fear, and not of peace. Ask now and see, can men give birth to children? Why then do I see the men with their hands on their stomachs like a woman in labor, with everyone's face turned pale? That word pale means green. How dreadful that day will be. This is a day that they're seeing. There has never been one like it, the time of trouble for Yaakov, but out of it he will be saved. Out of what? Out of a day. The time of Jacob's trouble is not a time of 7 years, it's a day. On that day, verse number 8, Yahweh says, I will break the yoke off from your neck. I will break his yoke from off your neck. I will snap your chains. Foreigners will no longer enslave him. Instead, they will serve David and serve Yahweh their Elohim and David their king, whom I will raise up for them. So Yah is going to raise up a king. And once he raises this king up from among them, how is he going to raise up a king from among them? You understand? He's going to raise up a king up for them, but the king is among them. Okay. So David is with the children of Israel. He's with the children of Israel. All right. Let's go here in 31. Listen to this. When that time comes, says Yahweh, I will be the Elohim of all the clans of Israel, and they will be my people. Again, I get in trouble all the time because I tell everybody that he says that you're not my people at this time because I'm not with you. You can't say that I'm your Elohim and I'm not with you. You can literally only say that legitimately when you are with me and I'm with you, because he always says the same thing. I will be your Elohim and then they will be my people. Here's what Yahweh says. The people escaping the sword found favor in the desert, and I brought near Israel to his rest. That's not the point I want to read. Okay. Proclaim it, people will come for nights. That's what Yahweh says. Where's that? Forgive me, guys. Got a little lost here. Jeremiah. It's important for us to see this. Jeremiah 30. Oh, yeah, it's 30. Okay, I skipped. It's in 30. And it's a little further down on 30. Here you go. 30 and 18 says this, thus says Yahweh, I will return Yaakov's captives to their tents. I will take pity on his dwellings. Cities will be rebuilt on their own tails, and palaces where they're supposed to be. From them will come thanksgiving and sound of a people celebrating. I will increase them, and they will be not decreased. I will honor them. They will not be despised. Their children will be as they used to be. So, and their community confirmed in my presence, I will punish everyone who oppresses them. So the backdrop on this, or the context of this, is Yah talks about returning the captives of Yaakov back to their tents. Okay, so when he returns them back to their tents, he reestablishes the community in his presence, and he says, anybody who punishes them, or oppresses them, I'm gonna punish them. Verse number 21 says this: their children will be as they used to be. Okay, and confirmed in my presence, and I will punish everyone who oppresses them. Their leader will be one of their own. Their ruler will come from among them. He's not going to be resurrected. He's going to be brought from among the people. He's going to be one of their own. I will cause him to come close and let him approach me. For otherwise, who would guarantee his heart enough to approach me, says Yahweh. You will be my people, and I will be your Elohim. Go ahead, Anzanya.
I just want to, because you had said Also in your teaching the order earlier in the week that if we are deceived, then it is our fault.
Yes.
The Davidic covenant is not in the law. And so it's the first time, and it's in the testimony, and it's the first time that the Most High tells us to serve anything else besides himself.
Yeah. Well,
and it's clearly something that's been added on after the law was given to Moshe. I mean, the Most High makes, I mean, you know, sure better than I do, but from what I can read, I mean, he does say that we were going to have a king, but he gives very strict guidelines for that king.
Yes.
But yet when we get to the testimony, it's even in Zechariah, and the house of David shall be as Yohei. I mean, we see things that are almost a little bit things that we should take a look at. And so I just wanted to know what you thought of that. Maybe it's for another class or even another teaching, but you're going over it. So I thought, you know, why not ask? Because
that's a great question. We know for sure that you know, Yah did say that Israel would have a king, right? He says, I think in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter number 16 or 17, talks about the judges. And when you guys do have a king, right, he wants him to appoint him. They wanted their own king, right? Yah has always been Israel's king. He's been proclaimed to be their king. He is our king. So in some texts, you will find Yahweh telling the children of Israel that I'm going to raise up. And if you notice, in some of our texts, he called him a prince. He called David a prince. In the book of Ezekiel, he doesn't call him a king. He calls him a prince, you know, and then he says, I'm going to raise him up from among you. You need a leader. So the leader that Yah was raising up for us is one who's after his own heart. Yah had made a covenant with David and a promise to him and said, I will establish a house for you, right? We find this in the book of Chronicles in chapter number 17. That's where you'll find that promise there. And you'll also find it, I think, in 2 Samuel chapter number 7, verses 7 through 14, I believe. So Israel has chosen to say, hey, we want our own king. And Yah was angry with them because of this, okay? And he said, well, now that you've done this, right? And you can read this in the book of Samuel. He said, now that you've done this, you know, this king is going to do X, Y, and Z to you. But then when Shaul dropped the ball and wouldn't do what Yahweh asked him to do, Yahweh says, I'm going to give you a king after my own heart. And so he chose David and he chose his family. And so the testimony and the record that we have, and we know is verified, that Yah has chosen David and he's chosen his seed after him to be able to stand before him forever. And of course, as you stated, it's not in the Torah, right? It's not in the Torah. So what we would say, does that negate the fact that Yah has made covenants with individuals and say, well, this is what it is, right? So if we look at the covenant that Yah made with Abraham, right? That's not in the Torah. And Torah is instruction. The Torah is instruction. So it's not, Yah's not, the Torah is used for instructional purposes to guide us to what it's supposed to be. If you notice David, when he did rule, he said, I need to do everything according to the rule. He made some mistakes, but he says, I need to follow what was written in the Torah of Moshe, which is the instructions on how to lead the children of Israel. Yah had told David that I chose you out of all the peoples and of all the families of Yehuda to be my servant. And because you've done this, and he said, I've chosen you. Let him say it. I don't want to say it. Let Yahweh say it. I hope you guys don't mind us going there, but we need to go there because this is a great question. And I'm glad that you asked it. So let's go to First Chronicles chapter number 17. And the backdrop on this is that, you know, David had been living in the palace a while. And he said to Nathan, the prophet, here I'm living in a cedar wood palace. But the ark of the covenant of Yahweh is kept under a tent. And Nathan said to David, go do everything that's in your heart, for Elohim is with you. But that same night, the word of Yahweh came to Nathan. Go and tell David, my servant, that this is what Yahweh says. You are not to build me a house to live in, because from the day that I brought up Israel unto today, I never lived in a house. Rather, I've gone from tent to tent and from one tabernacle to another. Everywhere I've traveled with Israel, did I ever speak to any of the judges of Israel to whom I've ordered to shepherd my people Israel, asking, why haven't you built me a cedar house? Therefore say to my servant David that this is what Yahweh Zavaoth says. I took you from the sheep yards, from following the sheep, to make you chief over my people. He didn't say make him king. He said, make you chief over my people. I have been with you wherever you went. I've destroyed all your enemies ahead of you. I'm making your reputation like the reputation of the greatest people on the earth. I've assigned a place to my people Israel. I will plant them there so that they can live in their own place without being disturbed anymore. The wicked will no longer devastate them as they did at the beginning, and as they did from the time I ordered judges to be over my people. So now we got this information that a lot of us forget about. Yahweh said that I've ordered judges to be over my people. That was the first. And in the book of Judges, you'll find that Yah sent saviors and judges to be over his people. He said, but instead, I will subdue all your enemies. Moreover, I tell you that Yahweh will make you a house. And when your days come to an end, you will go to be with your ancestors. He's going to die. And I will establish one of your descendants to succeed you. One of your own sons, I will set up his rulership. He will build me a house, talking about Shlomo. I will establish his throne forever. Forever doesn't mean forever. It means until an unforeseeable time in the future, until that time is up. I will be a father for him. And you can find this in Second Chronicles, I believe, chapter number 28. Or no, First Chronicles chapter number 28, where he tells him that he's my son and he will be a son for me. And I will not take my grace away from him as I took it away from your predecessor. Rather, I will maintain him in my house. It's Yahweh's house. And in my kingdom, it's Yahweh's kingdom. And his throne will be set up forever. Nathan told David all these words as describe this entire vision, because that's what prophets do. Then David went in, he sat before Yahweh, and he said, who am I, Yahweh Elohim, and what is my family that has caused you to bring me this far? Yet in your view, Elohim, even this was but a small thing. So you have said that your servant's dynasty will continue on into the distant future. You have regarded me, Yahweh Elohim, as a man of high rank. What more can David say to you about the honor that you're bestowing on your servant? For you know your servant intimately. Yahweh, it is for your servant's sake and in accordance with your own heart that you have done all this greatness and revealed all these great things. See, it wasn't David. It wasn't the children of Israel that was choosing David. It was Elohim. It was Yahweh who was choosing David. Yahweh, there is no one like you. There is no Elohim beside you. Everything we have heard confirms that. Who can be compared with your people, Israel? Or what other nation on earth did Elohim set out to redeem? This is what David is saying, to turn to a people for himself. You made yourself a reputation by doing great and terrifying things as you drove out the nations from before your people, whom you redeemed. You have made your people Israel your people forever. You, Yahweh, became their Elohim. Okay, so now let the word that Yahweh spoke concerning your servant and his house be confirmed, what you have promised. So Yahweh is the one who made this promise. And he says, may your name be confirmed. May your name be confirmed and magnified forever, so that it will be said that Yahweh Zavaoth is Elohim of Israel and Elohim for Israel, and the dynasty of David, your servant, will be set up in your presence. Yahweh is the one who has decided to raise David up to be this king. Word Israel. Okay, that's a good message. So Israel has not chosen David. Yah has chosen David. Does this make sense? Yah chose him. And when Yah made a covenant with David, just like our ancestors made covenants with each other, right? He had a prophet came to him. David wanted to build something for Yah. And Yah sent the prophet to him and told him what it was, that I made a covenant with you. I'm the one who made that with you. So David didn't choose himself to be king. He didn't choose himself to be leader. He didn't choose to make that promise. And because it's not inside of the Torah, we often think, okay, well, Yah didn't speak at any other given time besides that, and that's not true. Yah has spoken to the judges and told them what it's going to be. Yah chose the judges to be saviors for Israel. You see? So when we think about Yah as the king, and here's the thing, is Yahweh's throne. Is Yahweh's throne. David has never tried to get anyone or anybody in Israel to not worship Yah. If anything, he set up the Leviim to worship Yahweh. If anything, his son had built the temple for Yahweh and said, hey, you know what? This is what we're going to do. They've never taken away credit from the creator. So what's been going on is that often we say, well, you know what? You know, we only see if Yah said he's going to give us a king, then what should that king be like? And he says, if you're going to choose a king, the king has to do these things. So there's things that's written in the Torah on how the king is supposed to live and what he's supposed to do, but also too, here's the testimony of David. And this is the historical record. This is the historical record of what he said. Listen what Yah says. We have a few moments. Listen what Yah says. David was about to die. So what did he do? He rose in verse number 2. He rose to his feet, said, my kinsmen, my relatives, my people, listen to me. I set my heart on building a house for the ark of the covenant of Yahweh could remain at rest. It would have been Yahweh's footstool, and I prepared to build it. But Yahweh said to me, you are not to build a house for my name, because you are a man of war, you have shed blood. However, Yahweh, the Elohim of Israel, chose me. He chose me out of my father's whole family to be king over Israel forever. That was Yahweh's choosing. Israel didn't choose David. Yahweh did. He chose Yehudah to be the leader. And in the house of Yehudah, in the house of my father, among the sons of my father, it was his pleasure to make me. How many brothers did David have? He had like 6 brothers, and David was the 7th. And all my sons, listen, all my sons, for Yahweh has given me many sons. He's chosen Shlomo, my son, to sit on the throne, sit on the throne of the kingdom of Yahweh. This is Yahweh's throne. This is Yahweh's kingdom. Yah chose this man to sit on his throne. Moreover, and I'll explain this too from my understanding. Anytime there's a king among the people, you have 2 types of kings. You got a king who sits on the throne and he rules from that throne. Then you have another king who sits on the throne, but he also walks among the people. Yahweh chose David because David was wholehearted with him, and he loved Yahweh. He cried for Yahweh. He was a warrior in his attitude. He was very strong. He was very determined. He made a lot of mistakes, right? And he repented of it. And he said he was sorry. And he's teaching us on, that Yahweh will receive you if you turn back to him, if you're wholehearted with him. So he's letting the people know that Yahweh has established him. And he says, listen, verse number 7, I will establish his kingdom forever. This is what Yah told him. If what? I've skipped 6, forgive me. Moreover, he said to me, Shlomo, your son, will build my house and courtyards, for I have chosen him to be a son to me, and I will be a father to him. I will establish his kingdom forever. If he uses his strength to obey my commandments. So there's our Torah. See, and abide by my rulings. There's your Torah, as he's doing currently. Now, therefore, in the sight of all Israel, the community of Yahweh, in the hearing of our Elohim, he's telling us to observe and seek out all the commandments of Yahweh, your Elohim, so that you may continue to possess this good land and leave it as an inheritance to your descendants after you forever. And that's what he's telling to the people. Then he tells to Shlomo, as for you, Shlomo, my son, know the Elohim of your father. Know my Elohim. Serve him wholeheartedly. How do you do that? Keeping the Torah and with desire in your being. And Yahweh searches all hearts and understands the inclinations of people's thoughts. He says, if you seek him, he will let himself be found of you. But if you abandon him, he will reject you forever. And so he says, see, now the Yahweh has chosen you to build a house and a sanctuary. So it goes to say that Yahweh is the one who has chosen David. And then we have some testimony from Shalom himself, which we don't have time to go in today, but he talked to Shlomo, and Shlomo said the same identical thing. He said, that you were the Elohim of my father. You chose me, just like you chose my father. In the book of Jeremiah, chapter number 33, which I'm not going to not read that. I got to read that. He tells us that this in particular son, or this man and his family, two families that Yah chose. And listen to this, he chose this. This is a great ending to this, by the way. That's why I'm thankful for your question. And there's nothing wrong with asking those questions. This is what he says. In chapter number 33, Yahweh says this, because it's always about what he says. The word of Yahweh came to Yirmiyahu a second time while he was still in prison in the prison's guards. And Yahweh says, let me slow down. Thus says Yahweh the Maker, Yahweh who formed the universe, so as to keep directing it. Yahweh is his name. Okay. He tells him to call out to me, and I will answer and tell you great things, hidden things which you are unaware of. Let's scroll down because you don't have that much time. Where are we at? Okay, here it is. Now, verse number 16 says this, or 15. Slow down, David. 14. Here, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I will fulfill this good promise, which I have proclaimed, not to, but for the house of Israel and the house of Yehudah. Okay, there's a promise that Yah says I'm going to fulfill that I proclaim to these houses. When those days come, two houses, I will cause to spring up for David a branch, a Zemak of Zedequam. I'm going to put up a righteous branch. He will do what is just and right in the land. Okay, that's what he's going to do. When those days come, Yehudah will be saved. This is not Yeshua, who this person is, because Yehudah was never saved. Yerushalayim will live in safety. And the name given to Yerushalayim will be Yahweh Zekenu, Yahweh's righteousness, okay, our righteousness. For this is what Yahweh says. This is what Yahweh says. There will never be cut off from David a man to occupy the throne of the house of Israel, nor will there ever be cut off from the Kohanim, who are Levi'im, a man before me to offer burnt offerings, burn grain offerings, and offer sacrifices every day. This word of Yahweh came to Yirmiyahu. Here is what Yahweh says. If you can break my covenant with the day and my covenant with the night, so the daytime and nighttime no longer come when they are supposed to, then my covenant with my servant David can also be broken. David's covenant is directly connected to the night and the day. If you could get rid of the night and day, then you can cut off my covenant that I made with David, so that he will not have a descendant to reign from his throne, or Levi'im, who are Kohanim, to minister to me. To the degree that the armies of heaven are past counting, meaning the stars and the planets, and the sand of the sea is past measuring, you can't count that, I will increase the descendants of my servant David. Key word here is descendants, not one descendant, descendants. And what are they attached to? The counting of those descendants are equivalent or comparable to the sand of the sea. You'll never be able to count the descendants of David. You'll never be able to count the descendants of the Levi'im who are going to minister to me. You can never count the stars. So if you try to count the stars, you try to count the sand, that's how many descendants David is always going to have, and Levi'im are always going to have. This word of Yahweh came to Yirmiyahu. Haven't you noticed that these people are saying Yahweh has rejected the two families he chose? You see? Hence, They despise my people and no longer look at them as a nation. Why? Because these in particular two families, the two families that he chose, just so we can be clear, the two families that he chose, can you see me? You guys still see me? The two families that he chose is David that's his family. And who else's family?
The Leviim.
Yes, but it's out of Aaron's family. Those two families. These are the two families. So out of Judah, Yahweh chose David's family. Out of Laywe, Yahweh chose Aharon's family. See, we just want to say it's the tribe of Levi, and we just want to say it's the tribe of Judah or Yehuda. Yah went into the family of Yehuda. He went into the family of Levi, and he chose families out of those families. And this is what everybody is upset about, and they're jealous. Yah is not a human being, so he's not going to put, he'll have the Kohanim to come and minister to him and serve him and to draw near to him on behalf of the people. He also has to have a representative who will go out and do Yahweh's bidding for him on the earth in front of his people. The king has to represent Yahweh. One of his descendants will do so. So listen, he said, I haven't rejected these two families. Talking about David's family and Aharon's family. Hence, they despise my people. We're despised because you and I don't have the kingship, and you and I don't have the priesthood. And so what happens? The Christianity comes along and says, we're going to replace the kingship and we're going to replace the priesthood and we're going to put it under one guy called Christ. And now we're going to kill two birds with one stone. But Yah says that these families are forever. Okay. That's the promise. It is a good promise that Yah says I'm going to fulfill. In closing, he says, here is what Yahweh says. And if you and I can't take what Yahweh says at face value, then we're going to have a serious problem. All we have is what did he say? That's all we can bank anything on is what did he say? He says, if I have not established my covenant with the day and night and fixed the kukim, the laws, the decrees, which are called the kokim. If I have not established this for the sky and the earth, and I haven't set it in place, then he says, then I will reject the descendants of Yaakov. Okay? So listen what he says. I established my covenant with the day and the night, just like I did with David. If I get rid of the covenant I made with the day and the night, then I'm in the kukim that I got for the sky and the earth, when they're supposed to go through their cycles, I'm going to also reject these people. I'm going to reject all the descendants of Yaakov. That's all 12 tribes. And David, my servant David. Not choosing, since I'm going to reject you, I'm not going to choose any of his descendants. From his descendants to rule over the descendants of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. I've chosen David's family and the descendants from his family to rule over these descendants. And I will cause their captives to come back, and I will show them compassion. My promise to you is to give you a descendant from David. And if you could get rid of David, and you could get rid of the Kohanim, and you could get rid of the day, and you could get rid of the night, then there's no reason for anybody to exist. I will have to destroy the descendants and reject the descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Yah has spoken for us to have this descendant of the line of David. So anytime he's talking, and you read in anywhere in the text, he talks about my servant David, he's talking about descendants from the people to rule over the descendants of the people. Just like he chose the Leviim to be the people to receive the tithes, to be the people to teach the Torah. And remember, I started this lesson off talking about people are trying to change this. Christianity's went in and said, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to create a descendant of David, and then he's going to go ahead and take over, and then we're going to make him after the order of Melchizedek. And then there we got our priesthood covered, and we got our king covered. So we don't have, and then he's not going to have any more descendants. It's done. That's not true. The descendants of David will match the sand of the sea. The descendants of David and the Leviim will match the sand of the sea. They will match the stars of the heavens. And if you could get rid of that, Yah says, if you could get rid of that, then I'll break my covenant. Then you can, this right here can be broken. My covenant with David will be broken if you can break the day and the night. So guess what? That's going to happen. When is that going to happen?
At his great day?
Yeah, but guess what? Him breaking the covenant with the day and the night is never going to happen.
Well, never, right?
It's never going to happen. Yah says it's never going to happen. And so if we know that, right? He said, I'm going to fulfill the great promise that I promised to them. They're going to return. You know, what does he say here? Before I leave, I said I didn't want to leave. He says, look, he says this, I will cause the captives of Judah and the captives of Israel to return, and I will build them up as I did at first. I will cleanse them, both of them, from all their sins through which they offended me. I will pardon all their sins. And there's no death of anybody. I'm going to return them through which they offended and rebelled against me. My city, then the name of the city will bring me joy, praise, and glory before all nations of the earth that will hear about all the good that I'm doing for them. They will be overcome with fear and trembling at the good and the peace I'm securing for it. This is what Yah's talking about. He's going to do that for his people. David and the Leviim and the Kohanim are the foundation. The word Kohanim means to be the foundation of the community. They're the foundation of the community. So Yah's not trying to replace the Kohanim and say, well, David is now going to be teaching the people. David's job, from my understanding and my understanding, is to teach the people how to praise Yah and how to remember the great things that he's done. That's why he's put all those Leviim in place to ensure that they always make a remembrance of what Yahweh has done. David is an example for us to show us that you and I can be failures and we can mess up in a real bad way and make mistakes. And Yahweh, if we turn to Yahweh wholeheartedly, and Yahweh establishes us and he secures and makes our souls steady with him. And then you and I will come to Yahweh and offer him offerings of thanksgiving and sacrifices of praise. And if we would turn our hearts to Yah and our ear to Yah, Yah says that, hey, I will be with you. But it's a process. And that's what we're going through. What's crazy for us is that Yahweh wants us to always pay attention to the Torah. And Azania, I would say this to you, that I get your point where he says, well, he's never told us to appoint, David. No, he never told us to appoint David. He never told us to do that. He appointed David.
I said that it was the first time he ever told us to serve, where it says there in Jeremiah, and they will serve Yahweh and David, their king. It's just the first time you ever hear the Most High ever say for us to serve anyone but him. And so it just strikes you and you pay attention to it.
Well,
so
you think about they have let's look at that word serve, right? It's called avad. We found in the book of Nehemiah and Ezra where they had and I thank you for your question there and your statement. And maybe this can help since you just said that. I'm going to go to the book of, I think Ezra or Nehemiah, one of those books. Let me see. There is there's a list of, and it's probably bring more clarity to us. Okay, here you go. Okay, perfect. All right, so Ezra chapter number 2. We'll go there right quick so everybody can get some understanding. Because Azania is asking some really good questions, and these are something that needs to be addressed, because we don't want to have any discrepancies in our thinking about what it means to serve, right? So in context, let's see here. We're going to go to the book of Ezra right quick, and I'm going to show you something. You can read this later on today for yourself. We don't want to leave any stone unturned. So Ezra, and I believe you can find it in Nehemiah as well. But Ezra talks about, in chapter number 2, they were going back to build the temple, all right? And before building the temple, they get all these, you see all these numbers of all these people? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So so what it is in chapter 2, say here's a list of all the province who have been exiled. So they give a list of all the people who, and all their descendants and the numbers of those people who have been, exiled. And then it talked about Asaph and the singers, the Lavim, the descendants. And here's what I wanted to show you right here. The temple servants. Okay. So there's temple servants. Okay. And Shlomo had temple servants. Okay. And there's people who were in the temple that were, listen, and all the temple servants and all the descendants of Shlomo's servants. Shlomo had servants. Okay. So when we think of this word, our background, when we think about serving Yah, okay, a service to him means to worship, because that's what we know and we understand. Okay. But there's servants in the temple, there's servants in the households. So when it talks about you're going to serve Dawid, okay, it's not saying you're going to worship Dawid. It means that you're going to be one of his servants to do the things that you need to do inside of the temple for him. Meaning there's servants who are supposed to be there to sing. There's people that serve him through singing, and they got paid. There's people who are singing, men and women, okay, primarily the Levite men, okay, who were the leaders, right? Then you got, descendants of Shlomo's servants. He had people who served him, okay? And there's people who are serving him in the capacity of that which is political. He had people who served him to take care of his horses. He had people who to serve him, they were his servants, okay? And they got somebody who bring him wine. They got somebody who was in charge of making sure nobody was trying to poison him. They had somebody who was in charge of making sure that his bath water was a certain way, okay? They were servants. So when we're talking about serving him, we're not talking about worshiping him. We're talking about being a servant in the tabernacle. The Kohanim, according to the book of Ezekiel, the prince, he's going to be doing the service as well. But also, we find there, you guys can write this down because you guys are serious about Torah. You'll find in the book of Ezekiel. So I want you guys to get this, that it's not David. We're worshiping David. It's, oh, look at our Messiah. He's, we're going to bow down to him. No. Dawid or any of the descendants that come from Dawid, their primary responsibility is to get everybody to bow down to Yah. Okay. That's what they're supposed to do. All right. So what we have here now is, let me see, Shabbat Ram. Okay. I think right here. Oh, here you go. Let's just start here in verse number, oh, no, we could start right there. Okay. I ain't gonna start, don't start verse number 1. Here's what Yahweh Elohim says. The east gate and the inner courtyard is to be shut on 6 working days, but on the Shabbat is to be opened, which is the opposite of what you find in the book of Revelation. It says that the doors are always shut. Rosh Chodesh will be open. So the Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh is the east gate will be open. Okay. Why? Because that's where the sun rises. Okay. The prince, not the king. He's not identified as a king. He's identified as a prince. Okay. The prince is to enter the way of the outer vestibule of the gate and stand by the support of the gate. The Kohanim are to prepare his burnt offerings. Whose burnt offerings? The burnt offerings for the prince. So the Kohanim's job is to prepare. They're serving him by preparing the burnt offering and the peace offerings. Then he, who? The prince, is to prostrate himself in worship at the threshold of the gate. After he is to leave, the gate is not to be shut until evening. What gate? The east gate. Okay. Just like the east of the gate of the door of the tabernacle. The people of the land are also to prostrate themselves, just like this prince, in worship. He's the leader of the people. He's telling them what you guys need to do before Yahweh at the entrance of the gate on Shabbat and Rosh Chodesh. This is what you and I are going to be doing when we get back to our land. Okay, so we need somebody who's going to show us how to do this. The burnt offering, the prince is to offer Yahweh on the Shabbat, and it consists of 6 lambs without a defect and a ram without defect. Here in the book of Ezekiel 46, you don't hear anything about a high priest. You hear nothing about a high priest. There's no Hagadol Kohanim. They're just nothing but Kohanim from Aaron's family, okay? More specifically, Zadok's family. But now we got this prince, okay, who's doing this, okay? The grain offerings to be a bushel for ram, and he goes on to tell you what that is. On Rosh Chodesh, he gives you the offerings there. The one who's going to be presenting these offerings are going to be the prince, okay? Verse number 8, when the prince enters, he is to go by the way of the vestibule of the gate, and he is to leave the same way. And he gives some instructions on how he's supposed to do that and when and where. He's a little bit different. He doesn't go in the way that the way that he goes in is, from what it says here, when he enters, he is to go in by the way of the vestibule, and he is to leave by the same way. When you talk about the people, when the people come, they got to leave the opposite way. So when the people of the land come before Yahweh at the designated times, which is Rosh Chodesh and Shabbat and the other times, whoever comes into worship by the way of the north gate is to leave by the way of the south gate. They got to go out of the gate, the gate that's the opposite of the gate they came in. The prince, if he came in the west gate, he's supposed to leave in the west gate. If he came in the south gate, he's supposed to leave in the south gate. All the other people have to leave the opposite way. And there's a diagram that you can look up on Google and show you what the new temple will look like and where those gates are, okay? So the people are going from one gate throughout to the next one, okay? But it says here, he is not to go back through the way of the gate in which he entered, but is to exit straight ahead of him, talking about the people. On these occasions, the prince is to be among them when they enter. The prince is to be among them. When they leave, they are to leave together, you see? So the prince is doing some offerings and stuff like that. When the prince provides a voluntary offering, whether it's a burnt offering or peace offering, he offers it voluntarily to Yahweh. Someone is to open the east gate for him. He is to provide his burnt offering, his peace offerings, as he does on Shabbat. Then he will leave, and after he leaves, the gate will be shut, okay? So the prince has access to be able to come in here and do these things for him, okay? But he also talks about how this prince is going to have sons and how this prince can get rid of his hereditary property. As you got right there in verse number 16, Yahweh Elohim says this: if the prince turns over part of his hereditary property to one of his sons, it is his inheritance. It will belong to his sons as his possession by inheritance. But if he gives part of his hereditary property to one of his slaves, he is still going to have slaves. It will be his until the year of freedom, which is Yovel, in the time in which it will revert back to the prince. So the prince's heritage will go to his sons. The prince is not to take over any other people's inheritance, thereby evicting them wrongfully from their property. He is to give his sons an inheritance out of his own property, so that none of my people will be driven off their property. Next, he brought me through, and he goes on to talk about where he brought him through this other part. But the purpose of reading this is to show us, let me see, kingship 49. Yes, Genesis 49 and 10 does talk about the prophecy of the kingship for Yehuda. Thank you for that. So the purpose of showing you this is to let you know that there are servants that are we're going to serve our king in that capacity. We're going to serve him in that. People are going to be inside of the temple or beside, and he's going to have servants inside of there. But they're not talking about worshiping him. No one's ever going to worship a man. And neither has David nor any, except for Shlomo, has gave his worship to other Elohims. And some of David's sons have done the opposite. And Yah says, I'll discipline them, but I won't take away the promise that I made to David because of what his sons have done. So we're waiting for one of David's sons to be what? From among the people. If Israel scattered all over the world, the nations, David is among those people. That's why he says, when I return them to their tents, David I'm going to raise up a leader from among them. That leader is one of the descendants of David. So in hindsight, that's to say that one of the descendants of David is living among the exiles right now. He's living among the exiles right now. Yah says he can't approach me. Who can dare to approach me? There's a lot of people out here saying that they're David, and I don't knock them for it. They probably are. Who knows? And when we get there, Yahweh says, I'm going to raise this man up from among them. And then once he raises him up, the people are going to be like, we want him to be our king.
Thank you so much, Atika. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's what it is, you guys, is that, listen, in spite of what we've been told, there won't be any resurrection of David. Yah's not raising anybody from the grave. He told David, when you go be with your ancestors, I'm going to raise up one of your sons. That's what it is. So during the time, there's one of David's children that's around somewhere that Yah is working with right now. And he's working on him. He said, how would you be able to approach me unless you had given me your mind? You see? That's what it is. So David, these ideas that we've gotten from these religious people have messed us up. Yah's not talking about no man's going to serve David in that capacity. David is just a man. He's going to die, and his sons is a prince. And they're going to die too. And that's why he says they're always going to have sons. So you can see the cycle continuing over and over and over again. The priesthood, they're trying to change that. We're going to give you the 12 disciples. And we're going to give you some apostles. And now these are the people that are going to sit on the thrones that you saw in the book of Revelation. Yah says that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Where are the Leviim right now? The Leviim are scattered. You can find that in Isaiah chapter number 66. They're scattered all over right now. No one has a right to take on a position of being a Leviim. No one. They don't have a register. I can show that to you. I've talked to you about it. There's no register. But in spite of all that, what are we supposed to do? If we don't have a Leviim, we don't have a Kohanim, we don't have a king, we don't have any of these things. Yah has allowed us to see this, to bring it to our attention that guess what? I want to show you how far off you are. I want you guys to know it's heartbreaking. I know that you're grieving today because you can't keep the festivals and you can't bring me the offerings that you're supposed to. I know you can't do that. I know you can't because you're in a place where you can't do it. But I want you to yearn and desire to want to do it. I want you to do the best you can. Speaking of that, Shavuot is tomorrow. It starts tomorrow, but we don't have a basket. But what does it mean? He said it's a holy convocation. So what I would like to do is honor the Shavuot by inviting you to come and spend maybe 30 to 40 minutes with me out of your time tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So we can go over Shavuot and we could talk about what Yah has done. Okay. We can talk about that and look at some Psalms and just kind of meet for a little bit and honor it that way in any possible way we can. I don't think we should deny Yah the glory and the praise that he can get from us. We don't have anything. So should we not offer our praise? Should we not offer our time? Should we not offer those things? Will Yah reject us? Yah has not rejected us. Yah is looking for us to turn back to him with a whole heart and a whole mind. And all because we don't have all the tools doesn't mean that we can't begin to start trying to do something. Put forth an effort. That's all he's asking. He knows that you and I don't have what it takes. But he does get pleased when he sees that there's some type of improvement with us. So I invite you tomorrow at 7 o'clock if you have time. And tomorrow would be considered a Shabbat. If you didn't take the time off and you just didn't know about it, then that's fine. You know, I don't condone breaking the Shabbat, but we're in exile. We are a complete exile. We're a broken people. We're a broken community.
Eastern time, or that's California, your time?
My California, I'm sorry, California time.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, but wait a minute, but you're in the Eastern time, so let's do this. If you guys can, let's make it at 4:00. If you don't mind.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Let's make it for 4:00. We got people on the East Coast and like Azania. So let's make it at 4:00. If you can make it tomorrow at 4, let's make it at 4. So we can make some time so you can come together. We can have what they call a mikra. We can meet together and we can talk about what Yah has said, and we can talk about it because we do need to talk about it. Our people are going through a lot, and we just can't deny that. You understand? So I know it's difficult. I know it's hard because we're going through a journey, a wilderness journey, literally in our book. And we're seeing how Yah is working with us and how he's working with our people. And it makes us feel, to be honest with you, I feel ashamed. I do, because our ancestors caused this. They caused us to be separated from our Elohim. And all because we're separated from him doesn't mean that we can't reach out to him. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't call upon his name. It doesn't mean that we should take the time to read the Torah. It doesn't mean that. So it'll be 4:00 Pacific Standard Time. Okay. Praise be to Yahweh. Any questions, concerns? I got some questions here. Let me see. To briefly go over what Yisrael means again, it means he sows. El sows. I mean, he's the one who sows. S-O-W-S. And that's found in the book of Hosea. And it's one of the first sons that Hosea had with his wife, who's a prostitute. Okay. Genesis 49 talks about Yaakov's prophecy, telling one of his sons from Yehuda that they will be they're going to be the ones who will rule. Okay. And we also have from Genesis 49 talked about the Levi, that they're going to be the Torah teachers. They're going to be the ones living among the people in the communities. So Yah took what their father has said about them. I'm going to spread you. That seemed very negative, but Yah had a purpose for them. They actually proven themselves worthy of Yah's blessing, because as soon as they did what Yah was said, that's what happened. And then of course, tomorrow we're going to talk about some of these other Moedims that are coming up. And I think Rivka wanted to know if anybody would be interested in talking about Sukkot, which is coming up later on this fall. It's our 7th Moedim. And as you know, a Moedim is at an appointed time. So we'll have a little discussion about that as well. Also, too, to let you know, I want more class participation. That's what I want. My desire is for more class participation. So what I want to do is, and this was an idea that my Isha came up with, and I agree with her, is that I want to see if anybody may be interested in reading what they call a maftir. Okay. And I'll explain to you tomorrow what the maftir is, and which means that on Shabbats, I want to rotate and have everyone probably spend just a few moments, whoever signs up for it. You would probably read out of the Torah, and then I want you to kind of give the class a little bit of insight on what Yah gave to you about your study, about one little small part of the Torah portion. That's what the maftir is. The maftir is like, there's 6 days of reading, and then you have the 7th day, and you have the maftir. The maftir is the conclusion of all that was been read. So of course you got to read your Torah portion to understand the maftir, but the maftir is the final reading of the Torah of that in particular study of that week. So what I would like for you guys to do is if you're interested, this is not forced or obligated, but I want you to participate, because we're a family, and I want you to start being accountable for the Torah. I don't want you just to be the hearers of the Torah only. I want you to be the doer of the Torah. I want you to get involved. I want you to, read a little bit more and study and give us some insight, and to give us what you've understood about the Torah for that week. We want to hear from you. That's what it is. So we're a community, so let's be more involved. And I know a lot of us are just learning, and that's fine. No one's here to judge a person based on, what they do know and what they don't know. We're not here for that. We're not, you only know a little bit, or you got to know as much as I know. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. What we're doing is we're brothers and sisters. Okay. I'm Akika. I'm your brother. That's it. Okay. I'm not a Levine. I've already told you that. I'm not a Kohanim. I've already told you that. Okay. I'm not a ruler in Israel. I'm not a ruler in Israel. People want to make all those claims. I'm your brother. I play it smart and I play it safe. My job is to protect. So I'll take that position. That's for sure. I know that for sure, that we're brothers and sisters. Okay. But in terms of Yah choosing the one that he wants, Let him be the one who chooses his leader. You understand? But among us, among our men and our women that are on here right now, you have something to say. You do. You have to get involved. You have to start proclaiming Yahweh's name, and you have to proclaim what he's given to you, that he wants you to give to your brothers and sisters. Because there's a scripture that says that Yah is